A few years ago, I was told that I had osteoporosis. I had no particular problems or risk factors other than being thin. So I wanted to understand how it was possible and what happened. Here's a summary of what I discovered. First, when I was young, during the precious years when one is supposed to develop a bone mass, not only was I pretty skinny, but I didn't do any sports, I didn't eat any fruits or vegetables, apart from potatoes from barbecue restaurants, and I was presumably vitamin D deficient. So the day I reached the age of my peak bone mass, I cannot swear it, but I probably did not have the bone density of Arnold Schwarzenegger. That being said, there are many other factors that have nothing to do with the state of our bones, and that must be taken into account. If you're concerned about osteoporosis, all of the following may also apply to you. So, my bone density was measured and compared to normal. But what is normal? Normal bone density may vary a bit depending on the manufacturer of the machine used. In my case, the measurement was compared to men aged 20 to 40 years in the United States. The average weight of this reference group is 195 pounds. My current weight is 130 pounds. It's like I was being compared to a 195-pound hockey player and told I had a problem because my bone density was 25% lower. Yes, but I am 33% lighter too. Knowing that the bone is a living tissue that adapts, becomes stronger, and increases its density according to the stress and weight it is asked to bear, would it be possible for me to have roughly normal bone density for someone of my size? If I had undergone this test in China, my result would have been almost normal. Why? Because osteoporosis in men in China starts at a bone density pretty much inferior than my result. And why is the cutoff for osteoporosis lower in China? Because the average weight of men is 135 pounds and they have small frames. So if you compare me to one guy, I'm normal. And if you compare me to another guy, I have a problem? Wouldn't it make more sense if I was compared to someone my size? According to the studies I found, the answer would be yes. Because even though there are differences between North American and Asian microarchitecture and even bone geometry, the main explanation for the difference in bone density is body weight and bone size. Because yes, the size of the bones also influences the result. Here's how. When we do a bone densitometry, we send an X-ray beam through the bones. We know exactly the energy of the beam as it leaves the machine, and we measure the residual energy once it has passed through the bone. The mineral content on the bone absorbs the ray as it passes, so the weaker the ray is at the exit, the better the machine will conclude the mineral content to be. Conversely, when the radius is higher, the machine concludes that the mineral content is low. The problem is that the exam does not take into account the size of the person or his type of frame. In a thin person with smaller bones, the radius will have a shorter distance to go before exiting, and inevitably, there will be less absorption in passing. And here we could conclude, maybe wrongly, that this person lacks calcium. In fact, the further away you are from your reference group, the more the machine overestimates or underestimates your bone density. In a study published in 2002, the test was taken. We took the bone density of 3 groups of women: African American, Caucasian, and Asian. It is well known in the world of statistics that African Americans have the highest bone densities, that white women come in second, and that Asians have the lowest bone densities. Curiously, Asians have fewer fractures, and there is talk of a paradox. However, perhaps there is no paradox. When we redid the calculations, taking into account the factors I just explained, body weight and bone size, it turns out that Asians actually have a bone density equal to that of African Americans, and therefore superior to white women. Suddenly, it corresponds to the fracture statistics. Several other studies have reported the same thing. A doctor in the United States who treats women with osteoporosis explains the phenomenon very well on his clinic's website. Also, the scientific journalist Thierry Sucard makes the same observation in his book, The Myth of Osteoporosis, published in 2013. But beware, I'm not telling you that if you're thin and have had a diagnosis of osteoporosis, you have no problem. I do not know you personally, and there are several factors that are real and that can cause you to lose bone density abnormally fast. What I do say is that the smaller you are and the further from your reference group, the more consideration can be given to what I just described. And in the end, your bone density outcome might be less dramatic than what you see on paper.